Hi everyone, and welcome back to Lemon Dew. I'm Brie, and in today's episode, I'm going to be talking about the topic of autistic burnout. So without further ado, let's begin. So, autistic burnout, as defined by the National Autistic Society, is a syndrome formed by factors such as chronic life stress, as well as a mismatch of expectations/abilities without adequate support. In terms of the additional research relating to this topic, autistic burnout also relates to chronic exhaustion due to overexposure to stimulus, which causes not only low tolerance, but loss of cognitive skills. There are many reasons as to why autistic burnout occurs in autistic individuals, and this mostly relates to masking. So when you're suppressing autistic behaviours like stimming, or you're experiencing high expectations in life which can't be met, sudden transitions which are unexpected, like a change of vocation in a workplace, or general stress of having to adapt to a neurotypical world, you begin to, not only feel inadequate, but you can't really function as normal, especially because you're dealing with so many things around you. So coming from personal experience, autistic burnout tends to occur mostly due to masking. So as mentioned in earlier episodes, I've often had to, hide my true self for a long time. So it's almost like in certain situations, I find that I have to wear a mask and play a specific role, which isn't really who I am, because I'm basically suppressing myself. So for example, with social situations, I've had to act like I enjoy being around people I'm not familiar with, or family members that I'm not really close to, when really I don't fit in. And I just feel like I don't want to be in these situations because I'm very uncomfortable. I can't be myself because I know if I release who I really am, people are just going to judge me. Therefore, I've had to try to fit in by forcing laughter at unfunny jokes, or in the case of school, suppressing negative emotions because people would say that I'm too sensitive, or the teachers won't help me when I have difficulties adjusting to certain situations that are out of my comfort zone. So when in burnout, I feel like I can't function the way I'm accustomed to. So as of lately, I have actually been experiencing autistic burnout in the sense that I feel that my body is in one place and my mind and soul is somewhere completely different. So it's like I'm shutting down the more I use my energy. So in a sense, my body is like a phone battery. So the more energy I use throughout the day, the more fatigued I feel. And I shut down to the point where it becomes really difficult to get out of bed and even do basic life admin like cleaning. So lately I've noticed that since I've experienced autistic burnout for the first time, which I didn't even know what it was until recently, I need to have like background noise at times when I'm doing certain things like household chores. So I've been using a YouTuber's videos for this, and this YouTuber is Dana Anderson, who is an autistic woman who's had her own fair share of trying and struggling to adjust in what is essentially a neurotypical world. In the case of working, it's a bit difficult when you're in autistic burnout. I mean, for me, I zone out, I forget things, I skip meals without realizing I'm doing it, and I don't even have the energy to eat or feel like eating, because even eating becomes a chore. And I guess this is one of the aspects of human life that I kind of hate sometimes. Since experiencing recent fatigue and also depression, I don't really feel like myself. So I have gone back to taking antidepressants just to regulate myself for a bit. And obviously, because of the side effects, I am lightheaded. I am sort of a completely different person. So as I mentioned, my body is in one place and a soul that I have is somewhere else. I just don't know where it is. I don't know what to do. And I just feel stuck, basically. Now, there are many barriers to autistic burnout. So in relation to asking for accommodations, this is very difficult for autistic individuals because your accommodations can be denied by other people. You might have negative reactions if you try to say no to doing certain tasks, or you need a break to recharge. Because unfortunately, if these are things that you require, people think you're weak. People will say, oh, you're not strong enough to do these things. And it's like, who the fuck are you to say that? You know, who the hell are you? Because everyone is different. Everyone handles things differently. And if people need more time to do things, then so be it. There are also instances as well where you'll even experience gaslighting. So I don't really say to people that I'm experiencing autistic burnout if I'm experiencing it, because I don't know how people will react. So, you know, if people ask me how I am at times and I'm not myself, I just say, oh, I'm fine, I'm just tired or something, because it's just easier to say that rather than saying, oh, you have autistic burnout, because not everyone knows what that is. And if you say you have it, people just act very ignorant. So you'll have people saying that, oh, everyone has this issue, you need to just deal with it, or you need to suck it up because this is life, or because you have a disability, you're not entitled to special treatment, or you have to get out of your comfort zone, which is something that's been said to me before, or you have to adapt. And I mean, I understand that, yes, you do need to adjust in the world, but there are different coping strategies, and one thing might not work for someone else. So it's like, why don't people understand this? Why? But when these stresses add on, it's like you give up. You can't handle life. You can't get relief. And you just pretty much want to say, that's it, I'm done. And in a sense, going through autistic burnout basically feels like you are malfunctioning. So sometimes I even feel like a robot. My wires are crossed in the wrong places. I don't have the proper inputs for the commands in my brain. Everything's going wrong around me. I'm overthinking everything, and I just look at myself and I'm thinking to myself, I just can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. Now, there are ways where you can handle autistic burnout. So typically this includes actually being allowed to be autistic. So you can unmask, but I would recommend doing this in front of people who accept you, because as I've mentioned many times, it is very important to have a positive support system. I'm a person who believes that if you have quality people around you who accept you as you are and don't judge you, these are the people that you should have by your side, because anyone who radiates negative energy is of course not a person you want to be around. And I've had my fair share of experiences where I've been around people who've had negative energy and it does not sit well with me, and these are the people that I cut off from now on. You can also spend time stimming in a way which is comfortable. So, you know, if you like fiddling around with your hands, if you like to use a fidget toy or something, or even engage with your special interests or your comfort items, then that is something which is highly recommendable. So for me personally, my recent special interests have been in video games, especially obscure titles, and Sanrio products. I don't know why I love Sanrio products, but I just find the characters really adorable, especially Hello Kitty and Kuromi. So, you know, I suppose one of my Sanrio related special interests is playing Hello Kitty games on my Drastic emulator, which emulates Nintendo DS games, or I even like to do little customization things on my YouTube channel relating to Sanrio. As mentioned as well, being around people who support you is important. So it's very important to have acceptance and understanding. So if you are around people who've had similar experiences who are autistic, then that's great, because you have somebody to relate to, or even people who can just, like, you know, sit down and listen to how you feel. Having support during education, if you are in education, or at work, if you're at work, if things get too much, is important. So, if you're in a workplace setting, like an office, and you have a meltdown because you're dealing with so many tasks, you've got emails, you've got minutes to type up, you've got phone calls to take care of, you've got references to collect, and yeah, we're using my admin experience because that's what I'm familiar with, then of course, you need to tell someone as soon as possible. But again, you have to sort of, I don't know if pick and choose is the right term, but you kind of have to be careful of who you tell, because sometimes in workplaces, not everyone will understand what you're going through. So, if your manager is someone who is aware that you're autistic and they're supportive, or you have a supportive colleague, and you're comfortable enough to talk to them, as it's always important to be comfortable enough to express how you feel, then yeah, go and talk to them. Take your breaks, break down your tasks into lists, which is something I do, because that's kind of how I organize myself, as it's easier for me to remember what I have to do. Or if I have emails to take care of, I flag them as well, because having that color-coded system really helps me. So, just doing that kind of helps. But most importantly, setting your boundaries. So being clear on what you need and what expectations you have. So for me personally, setting boundaries is something I've had to work on for a long time, because there are instances where, unfortunately, especially in early aspects of my life, maybe my teens in secondary school, I've always resorted to people pleasing because I'm a non-confrontational individual. I don't like to fight with people, and I've always wanted to try and sort of make other people happy by making sure they're not mad at me. But the problem with this is that you are basically abandoning your own health and well-being, because it's like you're sacrificing that for somebody else. So it is very difficult to put your foot down, but it is important to do it, because you are able to be clear on what you want, and you have your well-being at a high level, if that makes sense. So basically what I'm saying is your health and well-being will remain positive when you set boundaries and be clear on what you need. And if people can't accept what you need, oh well, that's on them, that's not on you. Because like I said, if you have all this negative energy in your life, it's not good for you, and you have to cut it off. You have to cut it off. So although this episode is a short one, I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope there are things you've taken away in terms of things you can learn about autistic burnout. So as always, I hope everyone enjoys the rest of their Sunday. We have a bank holiday here in the UK, which is great. So for those of you who are off, enjoy your time off. I believe it's carnival weekend. I'm not really sure. If you are going to the carnival, that's great. Even if you're not, just enjoy your time off as much as you can, because it's always important to relax and rejuvenate before going back to work for the new week. The next episode I will be releasing is finally going to be on the topic of autism representation in media. The material's nearly done, so it's just a few more notes to add, and it will be released on a Sunday as always in the next few weeks. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and as always, thank you for supporting me on this podcast, and I will see you next time.